by
Moving,
saying,
bake, and shake. Let's go.
YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Buddha, back in the building for another LC Pro podcast with my co-hosts. We got Tweacz
What's up, fellas?
and TheKryptman.
Hello, friends.
There he is. So, guys, we had a newsletter drop yesterday.
Or two nights
Two
ago.
nights ago. 2 nights ago, yeah. Right before
Dang, it's already been 2
before
months.
before the update? Or was it after?
No, I think it was after.
Is it after the update?
Yeah, it
Fair
was
enough.
like, I mean, it was like 3 a.m. my time. I know that, or maybe a little earlier.
It was something like that because it was the middle of the night and we were playing some zombie slaying games and shout out to Demos. He was like, "Oh hey, there's a producer letter out now."
Yeah,
So we briefly stopped killing zombies to read the
to
producer letter.
dissect it. And there was a lot. There was a lot in that producer letter. A lot of the stuff that we have been promised in every Q&A where we've been moaning and bitching about certain things that we want to see, and they were like, hold your horses, we're not touching anything until multiplayer gets released. So with that newsletter, they said multiplayer is being dropped officially, and then we're getting to all of this other stuff you've been wanting.
Dropped as in released, not dropped as in canceled.
Correct. Yes,
Very important distinction.
that's
Very
a good
important.
distinction. So we were discussing whether we want to go over the entire producer newsletter as a whole, but I feel like everyone has seen it, and we've done that already. And I was talking to Tweacz. I don't know if you jumped in while I was explaining Crypt, but based on some feedback from the last podcast and from the newsletter, I got some people saying, one, what old units would you like to see shifts of? Basically asking what units do we want to bring back from the old times. And another person was saying, I don't know what units came before Roland. So is there like a list or something that we can talk about to see who's even in the running for these buffs? So I was thinking we could get a little more old unit centric, which is why we were looking for that global relevant list, because you guys enlightened me that JP got their newsletter, and that distinction in pre-characters before the character they named is different.
Right. So
Because we were playing catch up to them up until the point that Roland came out.
Exactly.
right. So for us, so essentially the time point of it getting like the distinction of what units are going to be in that pool of units they might buff are going to be pre-sync with JP. So we're going to have, for us, it's going to be anything Roland and before, which was last July. And for JP, they actually had Roland and the Eldravana UR before us. So their last unit for them is going to be Logia. And do you have the tier list up now? By
I
chance?
do, yeah. I mean, I can swap to it. I'm swapped to it on my screen recording, but obviously we won't see that until the posting tomorrow.
Right, yeah. Go on your screen recording and grab on there. So we're looking at the same stuff. So
Yep.
I'm on the tier list as well. I'm looking at. I'm set up for anything Roland and down, but
Yeah.
for global, I don't know of any actual global referenced images that are like you had for JP that are going to show all of the units, but the best resource that we have, because we have it in reverse chronological order on the tier list, is the tier list itself. We've put those in order from the order of release, and obviously reverse chronological. So you'll be able to see anything from Roland and down is going to be a possible unit that will get a buff. Now, Barlene had mentioned in chat that there's like a first batch or like a first few units in June that are going to get a buff, but it's not going to be a huge amount right off the bat, but they are going to be buffing units.
Does it make sense, or does it makes sense that they're going to start earlier? They're not just going to pull random units from random points in time, or could they, do you think?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't think that's been confirmed with anything,
Mm-hmm.
but I would assume the units that do not have a shift yet are probably going to be some of the first ones that get picked.
Right.
So
What
I mean,
do
we can
you
talk
what
about
what are the
that.
chances of them buffing the main cast, the OG main cast?
Little to none, I would
Probably
think.
low. Yeah, sadly.
Just because like modern shift units are probably going to be not necessarily it's a buff, but it's a type of buff. So for any units that have, especially the main cast, right? So it's any units that have a very, very recent shift, I doubt they're going to be buffed very much. But, well, I mean, we'll have to see. That would be pretty cool if they actually buffed. I mean,
I think
I would be
so.
excited about Lilibet. Lilibet's actually a pretty good kit, but she's just so weak. So,
Yeah, trash. 3.5. Get that out of my face.
She's only 3.5 because she has like niche use as a special battery for like OG Gorm, like
Oh my
early Gorm.
goodness.
I mean, even just looking at the lists, right? So you want to
Mhm.
talk about units we're excited about, units we think are going to get a shift. Dude, I know Lena has Summoner Lena as a shift, but if they buffed regular Lena with how good she is as an glass record SCT battery,
Mhm.
like,
You've got her
and
at
they're
a
not
9 point, or the Discord has her at a 9.2 for ideal usage, which
Dude,
is what you're saying. You
It's not
need
wrong.
glass record. You need, yeah. You
need
need
Maiden's
those.
Banquet or a recast. Yes, she's is so unique because she has one of the skills in the game that gets MP back on your hits. In her S2, I believe it is.
Magic cocaine.
Which there are. I mean, I don't need to go into it now, but there's a couple resources there that I've put up for little short videos, showing her build, I believe. And oh yeah, there's a complete SCT battery build. So,
Mhm.
she's crazy in that aspect. She's she's essentially just as good as
Don't tell me Gen.
Gen
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Don't
gosh.
don't say
As
again.
an-
Don't say again. Don't say again. Again.
as an SCT battery. And with the MP regen, she's just as good as Gen and or V in getting MP back and spamming.
Mhm.
It's like a glass record for an SCT battery. So yes,
Wow.
yes. And we don't need to get into her, but like that would be an awesome buff to see
Mhm.
because she is the first unit out of the block that, like, one of the first released unit essentially outside of the main cast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I
is cool to see.
I think that's a cool way to start. Maybe picking our some of our favorite units we'd like to see get those buffs, and why. Maybe. Obviously, you're a big proponent of Lena already.
Yeah.
Crypt. Do you have any specific in mind you'd like to see for any particular reason, or are you're just seeing what comes to the table?
I mean, I'd like to see Dine get buffed because Dine sucks, and I would like to see him not suck.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
And you have to.
But they would have to like fix magic, right?
Sadly.
I don't know that like they're gonna buff some units and fix some units, but like, are they gonna fix the underlying systems that make mages bad? Probably not.
Right.
So
He's
ideally, I'd like to see him turned into a PDPS, right? So he can be useful.
Yep. Every wish for every unit.
Yeah, for every mage.
I mean, yeah.
Make them good PDPS, or they're just not a good unit. Sorry.
From what I'm looking at, he's literally he's BB Shin terrible caster version.
Yeah, it used to be good, like when Magic had time stop, and we were very limited in our options, and it was a week after the game had come out. At that point, he was okay.
Right.
I used Dine to cheese my way through like most content early on.
Yeah.
He was my early hard carry because again, mages used to be very very strong relative.
That's cool.
So I have a very soft spot for Dine. I also just love his character design. I think he's a very cool
Yeah.
unit. I would like to know more about him without having to read. Um,
Sure.
because I haven't read any of his story. Conceptually I think he's really cool, but I don't actually know anything about him.
I thought
Um,
that'd be a pretty cool content piece that I was going to try out is going through certain characters, certain arcs, and making videos on like the history of dot 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 or whatever, and making it kind of like a storytelling video. But I don't know. It's kind of like a
oh, for sure. Quick aside, one of my very favorite content creators is a guy named Vati Vidya on YouTube. He does Dark Souls and Bloodborne like lore videos
Oh
and stuff, and
yeah.
he does that. He does deep dives into each character and their lore and a lot of the like monsters and stuff like that. Of particular note is his Prepare to Cry series, which is obviously a play on the Prepare to Die,
Right, right.
that Dark Souls is all about. But I would personally love that. I would watch every single lore video that you put out.
I like to hear that. All right,
I'm
cool.
I'm personally more interested in like lore videos and stuff than I am like gameplay videos,
Sure.
right? Because gameplay I can do.
Exactly.
That's fine. But like lore, that's difficult for me.
I can
So
narrate. I can narrate it for you, Crypt.
Yeah, 100%. I'm on board with that. I will listen to every single one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get back on track. I don't want to bore the people. They came for the news. I was going to ask Tweacz, when we're talking about these units, do you want to? I know you have them. Would you want to pull them up and we can look at what their like traits are, and then see maybe what tweaks
Sure.
we could make? Or, I mean, it sounds like their plan is to release nodes on the ability board. They're not really going to rework the traits based on what Barleen said.
Right.
But I mean, depending on the passives they slot in, isn't it effectively changing their traits and stuff?
Yes.
Because some passives are as much text, if not more, than
Absolutely.
some of the traits that units have. Especially like early units, right? If you
Right.
look at the early units traits, it's like one line of text.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's
Which is
it.
what like I'm looking at
The
now.
current ones are like a paragraph.
Hmm.
Yep. It's there's a lot of room for changing things. And you don't even they can add stuff to like straight up stuff in the skill tree. I mean, and I don't mean add things, right? So like what they did with what I assume they're doing as of right now is the max, and I don't know if they'll change this, but the max ability board unlock spots has always ever been 108 spots, 108 abilities that you unlock. So what they did with the stone units is they, instead of, I know some of them were below that, but they added a couple of nodes to bring that up to 108, and or for Senku, who already had 108, they changed some of his nodes. So I think that's probably what they'll do. And if they're going to add anything, like I know Barleen had talked about, some like super, super strong skills being added. If they're going to do that, they might make it more than 108, which unlocks even further progress for units in the future. So, but I mean, they can change. All of these traits are unlocked in the tree. So they can change those nodes pretty easily to reflect changes they want to do to the traits. And Crypt is right. Like, if you look at Lena specifically, reduce the MP needed for healing magic. Literally one line. Blessing
Those
of
are-
Ignorant Cell.
Those are
Chance of
words
getting-
I hear so infrequently.
Like, so random, right? So she could use an enormous buff. And she could, like, even her skills, like, even if they wanted to make, which they're not going to change their skills, apparently. They said,
Right.
like, no hit count changes, no effect changes, but what they are going to do is give their base kit just, like, a nice little rework. Which is cool, because what we've seen from Tsukasa especially, they added a human slayer to one of his skills. Like, that's a really big improvement for skills. That's like a 30 plus SC improvement. Like, they can do that. And
Right.
from what Barleen had said, that if they make it worth it enough for the super grindy stuff that they're going to release in order to upgrade these units, which we don't know what that's about. If they make it worth enough for the traits or for like whatever they upgrade in their skill tree and for the unit themselves, it's going to be worth it. Like, so they could add crazy slayers like that, or like an Omni Slayer or something, like Shift a little bit has in her.
Yeah, I think
regular like stuff like that. That'll be really cool.
It's easy to speculate, how to make old physical DPS better, because we've got the template for that written on every new character that's coming out. So I'm wondering, what
1 to 10,000 cap raise and dual wield innate fixes every single physical DPS unit there is.
Literally, that's all that's needed. Pretty much, and just maybe some. No, not even. That's it. But for
they're
support,
gonna need a lot of general stat boosts, multipliers and stuff. Yeah, they're gonna need a good bit, but that is a start.
So I'm more interested to see if they rework support style like Lena.
I mean, she could be if they rework her a little bit, she could be absolutely meta, which is hilarious because she's out of all the oldest units, it's probably like her. And the oldest, her and Princess Sevilla are probably the most relevant.
Right.
That are going to have like abilities that are still stand forth like till to the day.
Yeah. And I mean, what if they even just gave Lena an innate skill that does the same thing as Glass Record, but is now a permanent skill in the game? It's not a collab unit only.
Right.
Makes her infinitely better.
Absolutely wild.
Right. I think any kind of SCT recharge is your meta support style.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's meta for anybody. Like you add SCT regeneration to anybody, and it makes them just so much better.
That's like pretty much any game. Anything that's gonna give you your skills faster.
Yeah.
On a support unit is gonna be huge.
Yeah, it's like kind of like attack speed on your turn-based stuff like that.
Yep,
for sure. It's anything that works in the interest of giving you more time, right? Because the resource that we're trying to decrease the usage of here is time. In every aspect of this game, having faster skills, better. Doing damage faster, better. It's all a time thing, and especially in arena, like you want to steal as much time as you possibly can to get ahead on both like MP regeneration, SCT regeneration, just whatever it is.
Oh, look at that guy.
Time is really the resource that we're Goroth.
For sure.
Time is really the resource that we're trying to manipulate here. Time and life.
Exactly right. What's a life, Crypt? You have a life?
Oh, I was talking about in game.
Yes.
No,
okay, good. Yes.
I was referring. I was referring to something that Horrible Chopstick and I like to say, which is life is just a resource. In every game, HP is just a resource, and as long as you have more than 0 of it, it can afford to be spent.
I love it. I like it. Looking at Goroth, big old Goroth. I was gonna say maybe Dine just because, or Dine, whatever. But Goroth, it'd be pretty funny if they gave him a buff and released his shift simultaneously.
I wish they could, obviously, but I mean, this Goroth is pretty lacking in pretty much every area of the game. So, like, even if they release a shift, the buffs are going to be nowhere near how good the shift is going to be.
Party.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said meat party because I find it to be a very funny name for a trait. Y'all coming down to the meat party?
Which, I mean, his traits are just horrible, and he's just not a very good unit. And that goes along with a lot of.
His trait 2 could be really good. His trait 2 could be incredible if the numbers were right for it, right? If it was a high enough SCT and a high enough probability, that's essentially Sardine's quick reload. Like that's proto quick reload, but like the numbers on it are so bad that it's just not good.
Right.
But that's a trait that they could make 1 or 2 little tweaks to, and it would be amazing.
Right.
Yeah, he's just not a very good unit at this point.
No,
so he can use a strong rework and be viable. But I'm excited to see his shift, most importantly. So that'll be a fun time in June.
So some Buddha speculation. I got to do it. I mean, it's like you brought up the point that some of these units that we're looking at already have a 108 out of 108, but
Right.
could it make sense for them to target units like Goroth? I imagine there are others who don't quite have the 108 and just bring Goroth from 105 to 108, and those are the units they're looking for, and they're going to give them monstrous. You said no?
No, I said, absolutely, they could target them, but I was only mentioning the fact that Senku had already had 108, in the fact that they don't have to only target people that are less than 108.
Right. And even with the Dr. Stone remakes, I don't want to use that as quite the same basis of what they're going to do, because that was just completely different from the format that they're presenting this time. That was just, if you have them and they're unlocked already, you're just going to get the rework.
Right.
Now we're going to have some kind of grind to make these units reach this level, this new level, which I'm a fan of, and I imagine you are too.
Absolutely, because we get to see, and we know little to nothing about it, right? It's all speculation at this point, besides the information that Barleen has given us. But yeah, I have some ideas in my head, that some, visualization stuff that I'm thinking they might do, but we won't find out till they actually do it, until we see like the first unit that gets a buff, and probably not going to be too crazy, but it'll be interesting to see how they do that.
Demi Luna throws out in my chat that he's seen B say that they were thinking about adding enhancements, so like adding more rings to the board, right? Like out beyond the last 4 skills.
Sure.
But the issue with that is, enhancements are linked to levels, right? So if they're going to push the level cap, you would think they would have said that.
Or they just
they're deliberately
introduce
vague.
a different type of material, rather than this 5th or 6th ring relying on your enhancement level. Maybe it's a separate upgrade altogether.
Sure.
Possible. Right. Like you said, this is all speculation, just to try and make sense out of the information that we have been given. But can you jump over to Dine, because I've never ever looked at his kit.
Sure.
So his traits. Okay.
Fun fact, 9 was my first ADSC character.
Nice.
I didn't have him for the longest time.
Really?
Yeah, and he was just, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He evaded me.
Right.
Dude, I still have never naturally pulled a Lila. I had to selector her.
Listen, I believe you, because we talked about this like 3 weeks ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And 3 weeks before that.
Yeah. All the time. Constantly. Because it still never happened. Like as soon as it happens, I'm gonna stop talking about it. But it still hasn't happened.
Oh yeah. Well, that's like Lauren, and she just got Laugmechia, the SSR arc.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Shout out to who called me out, Rufus. Yeah. So I guess my pick would be Soul Reaper Melza, because
yes, absolutely.
Boy, has she haunted me in some summon videos.
Ugh.
What does she do?
She was my first plus 20 SC unit.
Goodness gracious. Mm-hmm. I wonder I'm going to check mine, see what she's about.
There you go.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
God. She's like a hybrid of Blood Rose, but a critical rate up against Faint or Broken Enemy.
None of it is good.
Ew.
None of it is good.
Ew. God.
And that's the thing with these early units. Like, they have just compared to like what we're used to now, these units just have nothing to them.
They have nothing to offer.
So here's the funny thing: because they have nothing to them, this is why it was the adage, like very, very early on in this game, in which case you needed arcs. You can make these units any way you wanted, because they really didn't have anything special.
Right.
They're essentially blank slates.
Yeah. Well, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which was cool in the beginning, but now that we've gotten units with directional builds, and that synergize with their kit, and their kits aren't just totally all over the place. Like,
I mean, yeah.
Pretty nice.
I'd like her to be good. Her sprite looks real cool to run around the field and swing that scythe with.
Yeah, her and White Knight Melza still have some of the best regular attacks in the game, along with the XR, which is really really funny for like ailment spam and stuff. But that's about it. Like she's not. That's why I'm pretty sure that's why we gave her a 5 in ideal usage, because she actually is a pretty good ailment spammer.
Oh, that's funny.
Her auto's pretty good, like the range of it, the speed of it, all that.
Which
very fast.
What are we talking about? Piranha? Or what did you say?
Her auto?
Oh, her.
Yeah, her regular attack.
Like she has a skill called Piranha. That's pretty dope.
We talk about what?
Puts the bleed.
This is now the pro Piranha cast,
right?
But yeah, she So that's your pick for who you would like to see get a buff?
Well, that was just a front runner because she has shown her face, and I think Rufus was thinking of all the times. But if I go back and I look at the tier list and actually think about who I might select, I mean, where are we? Where are you, Roland? Okay. Oh man, I mean, he's still like I would pick Dilmordo because he's on this list, but he's too new. They're not reworking him.
Here's the thing:
wave.
we cannot appease Leon like this. Like we can't be talking about Dilmordo on this podcast because he's just gonna get way too excited.
I'm with Liam though. I'd be totally fine with them buffing Dilmordo now and making him a 10 out of 10 DPS unit.
Well, here's the thing. I think they gave us a range of units they're going to possibly rework as, just like an excitement thing, right? Because they're probably not going to rework the better units from that era. Mm-hmm. So, yes, they gave us Roland before, and I think they're probably planning in the next 6 months, year to buff a lot of those units. But I think I do think they'll start with the much older units.
I've gotten my pick. It would definitely be Gorm.
Yeah.
Gorm would be sick. So here's the thing. I think a lot of this goes in the fact that yes, we have these buffs coming up, but I also think we have to think about, because it sounds like they're going to be buffing 1 unit per month, or not buffing, but just giving a shift unit per month. So that's the thing with Gorm. He doesn't have a shift yet. And I think all of these older units that do not have shifts yet, I think we should probably look at as potential shift units. And I think a Prince Gorm shift would actually be very, very good.
Gotcha. See, I'd like to look into his lore, because if I had looked into Medine's lore, I would have known. Oh, wow. There's the potential shift right there.
Right. We don't need to get into that now, but
no, we don't. We'll save that. We'll save that for Buddha's new content.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
Fair enough. But I mean, even looking at the tier list, like the older units that don't have a shift, Blood Rose, first of all, which we can go back and talk about for buffs. But Blood Rose needs a lot of help anywhere. Blood Rose, Prince Gorm, Dine. I call him Dine. You say Dine. Dine. We got Graven. We got Daura.
Graven, we've seen art of his shift from like a year and a half
literally
ago.
One of the best arts in the game, and it's not even in the game.
I know, right? Dora. I mean, I'm looking up there. We got Eliza and Lanceville could get a shift technically. Luger especially, like the man's needs help.
What if they like crazy buff PTR?
That's what
that would be awesome.
I would be for it. I love PTR.
Yeah, I would imagine they would do OG MTR first.
Some MTR, yeah.
Some MTR.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tweacz had pulled up.
Some My Thief romance.
I mean, but then you go into like Foul and people who don't, like Vaughn and Celios could get one. Zykes. But I mean, you're good. That starts getting in the territory of like units that don't really need shifts, right?
Sure.
But we have, just to mention them, Dilmordo, Beyland, Claire, Logia, and Roland all don't have shifts. So,
right.
That would be very, very hype in the next coming months. I mean, Goroth came out of the blue as a shift unit. Like, I mean, I'm assuming you as well as I, watching that video, and they're talking about a new unit coming out. Not at any point did I think Goroth was going to be it.
And not
I was
at
not
any
expecting
point
stupid sexy Goroth.
did I expect Goroth to become like Pimp Lord Daddy Man.
Yeah, right?
like everyone was simping over his new design.
I mean, yeah, he's got a pretty awesome design, and the potential of what they just did with Medine. If they, do a similar buff or to the shift that they did with her to Goroth, he's gonna be an awesome unit.
For sure.
So
I think it's gonna be a really unique unit. I don't know if it's gonna be good, but I think it's gonna be very unique.
And you know what lasts in this game, Crypt?
Uniqueness. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because
you know what gets simps? Uniqueness.
Right. For all the units that we've had and that you can figure out the synergy for like a whole team, it's the unique units that thrive. As like support units or like a certain effect that they have. Right. Mm-hmm. That's why Lena's so good in certain scenarios. That's why Prince Gorm is so good in certain scenarios. That's why Sevi is so good in certain scenarios. Like even the older units still have their niche value because they're so unique.
Mm-hmm. Rommel would be a cool.
Did I skip him? I think I did skip him. Yeah, Rommel, for sure. Rommel's a much needed buff for how long that we've had Tower with him in it, and how disgustingly hard he's been for many, many new coming players to beat. I think he's deserved of a shift.
Just give him flinch resistance.
Just straight up total flinch resistance. Never flinched.
Like he has. Isn't that what he had?
Give him super armor.
I mean, yeah, that's what a lot of bosses have. That's what a lot of bosses have in Tower.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, he's like one of the first ones that gets it, and it's pretty funny.
He's one of the first places where like that, and then the actual literal wall. A lot of people have problems with the actual literal wall in there, but those are the first bosses where it's like, oh man, I might have to like change what I'm doing.
Yep.
To kill these guys. Like I have to find some ice damage, or I have to find a way to negate illness, or like what am I going to do about the fact that every time I hit this guy he ults and kills one of my units?
Right.
Like how am I going to handle that?
Exactly.
Just such an important moment in Tower when you first get to that stage and have to figure it out.
Yeah. I'm working on a Tower tips and tricks guide.
Nice.
Courtesy of Utari. I just want to get some footage of me actually playing the Tower.
You play Tower?
Inserts sometimes, every now and then. Well, typically right before it goes away for the month.
Yep. Have you done it yet?
Got to get in the last minute live stream.
I have not.
I
wanted to do it earlier this week, but then things just got kind of crazy. But Gallant Flame Vaughn. Did you mention Vaughn?
I did say Vaughn and Celios.
You did. That's right.
But those would be probably in like a second or probably a third batch.
Yeah, they're a little.
But like, dude, they could make Vaughn and Celios awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Celios, I wouldn't be so excited for just because we have Medine, so his hype would be dulled by that fact for me personally.
Right.
But Vaughn would be pretty lit.
So keep in mind, actually, I just wanted to do a little aside real quick. So keep in mind that now I had this thought, and I exposed it in chat the other day. I'm just going to go into Baran's lore for a second, and the very, very last thing. Mm-hmm. So you remember, like, Medine talked about a unit who, she became basically talking about her shift, right? Yeah. And this isn't related to Vaughn, but when I was looking at this, in addition to, and you know how all these older units are technically dead units, right, lore-wise. Yep. So like the DOH units
most
are like
of the characters
are the current alive units in the game, like the DOH ones, in the main cast. So that's why they're all DOH, because they are currently alive. And Meridy's the only one that's like not been part of the DOH shift, just because she's like a side character, but she is alive still.
Yeah.
So all of these permanent gacha units are going to be just super, super old and dead from like lore wise.
Mhm.
So what I was thinking when I was reading Baran's lore is this last little bit. It says, in addition to the historical records of Baran, it said that his current fighting style closely resembles that of a famed soldier that was active in Blaze, but it's not entirely clear if that is any relationship between the two and if this information is at all relevant. So like when I saw that, I was like, wait, what the heck are they talking about? Like, this has nothing to do with the story above. Like, why is this here? And then I was thinking like, oh, is this referencing like one of these older units from Blaze that's going to have a shift form that's going to have a flail sword? And my first thought was Vaughn. And I was just like,
That'd be pretty lit.
that would be awesome. Like,
Wait,
I mean, I know it could be Celios, but like, I could see him because of the chains and stuff. I could see him getting a flail sword as well, and he having a shift form with it.
That would be dope.
So, I mean, that would be pretty cool. I think. I don't know. That's just like complete speculation, but like when you find those weird things in the lore, like Maddie's mentioning about her becoming a pirate and stuff,
right?
I would pay closer attention to that than you would normally do so, because that's probably hinting at a shift.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I want to. I thought of that whole idea to start covering lore videos on this game, because not only is it generally interesting to just learn the backstory of a lot of these units, but it sometimes gives you insight into potential future updates.
The arcs too. The arcs all have incredible stories on them that you unlock over time.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I guess if you need slides and stuff for those videos, let one of us know.
I will.
Yeah.
I would love to collab on that.
For those of us who have, most everything leveled up to level 10 already.
I would definitely need help. For sure. But also I got a close relationship with Jabberwock, who is like
the resource god.
Yeah. Exactly.
Literally the resource god.
Cool. Well, I guess I know you guys don't like to do too much speculation when you don't have much.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Speculation. He loves speculation. I'm just the only one who doesn't.
Let's go.
I feel that. Well, yeah, I'm definitely.
I like
more
speculation
like
with the idea that like way, way, way more often than not, I expect to be wrong. Right?
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess I'll present to you guys where do you want to take this next? We kind of covered the list of potential units all before Roland that were actually released. Went over some of them.
I think a lot of the units that a good gauge as to who's maybe going to get a buff, who's maybe going to get a shift, I would assume are probably in line with our views on how bad they are. Right? So if you look at the tier list and you see all of these reds everywhere, it's probably those units that are going to get a shift. So like, and I know Medine was actually not that rated that bad, but like the fact that they're going after Goroth means that people like Bloodrose, Graven, Dora, Luger, Rommel are all have very, very viable options as to people who might be getting buffs and shifts. So, I mean, it'll be fun to see who gets what, because they're gonna. From what Barleen had said, he said that we are gonna get a few shifts or a few buffs in June. So, what that means or how many, that could be a few means 3, right? So. We don't know if it's exactly 3. It could be 2, 3, 4. Could be even 5 units get an older buff, but who knows? It'll be nice to see who gets them, because I'm wondering about the ridiculousness of the skills that are going to be in their skill trees to make them worth us grinding to upgrade, right?
Sure.
Because from what I understand, essentially Marlene said, like, I got the gist of it, that they were going to add only a couple things to their skill tree, but it's going to be so drastically different and huge, and a huge update that it's going to be worth the grind.
Yeah. Which is hard to imagine.
That's hard. It's very hard to imagine. So if you can make it worth it, let's do it, because I mean, I'll be grinding this stuff out, but
Well, apparently
to
900.
make OG Blood Rose worth,
Yeah.
it's gonna take a hell of a lot.
I love his rating. He's the worst out of the entire tier list, yeah? Besides some of the monsters.
Him and Draven are ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ghoul is a 1. Daborn is a 1. They're all 1s, which is
Daborn
crazy.
the only
Literal monster tier.
I was just going to say, I'd be so down for monster buffs.
I would too. And you know what? I've been saying for forever. They missed the point on the Slime Ray run when they, or the Slime collab, when they could have had a Gobble Shift or a Ghoul Shift for Ranga, like stuff like that. They should have done that. Absolutely, that would have been awesome. But you know, they have the option to do so in the future.
They do.
All right.
That's a good point.
And I know who is it? Oh yeah, Tashi has been wanting Pockle shifts for forever. Even if it was visual, like, you know, they have for Vizard to change him into Revizard for like the AER of the Revizard arc. Even to have something like that turns like Pockle into like State and Pockle, or Pockle into like, you know, just a different color.
No, you just need the you need a Knight helmet, and then you can have Knight Pockle from the artwork that we got a while ago.
Yeah, the fan art.
The Halloween. No, I think it's an official artwork, but it's the Halloween artwork, and Pockle is up on the top, and he's got the little Knight helmet on. That's the same place that like I think it's Theria is wearing a Ray costume, which is really weird.
Oh my god!
And we have like Samurai Lanceveil in that picture.
I think I know what picture.
Vampire Sekis is in that picture. Yeah, that's Bunny Eliza is also in that picture.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah, so, that picture. You know the one.
I know the picture. Here she is. You could use. I mean, here's the thing. I hope they don't. When I'm talking about buffs and stuff, I hope they don't go the route of what they did to Lanceveil and Eliza, which was very, very minimal in buffing.
Can you buff Lanceveil and Eliza?
Can you run that by me? Because I wasn't a part of that. And
so, Crypt, do you remember when this happened, when they buffed them?
I don't remember when it happened, and I don't remember what they did because it was so insignificant that it made no impact at all.
Right. So they didn't change anything in their traits, but this was sometime in the fall, I believe, between not between, but around like the DB Ray era.
That's when I jumped
around Yasha and stuff, like around like October, November. And they brought out Eliza and Lanceveil banner to get people to start pulling on them. And they added their like unique weapons into the Crimson Ore shop for 10,000 credits, and we're all sitting there like, why? Why? But like through their kits, what they added, and I don't have the material, but I know they added like
nodes. Demos
I don't know if it was Staff High Boost or stuff.
It was. So, okay, I see. Eliza got Fire Attack Raise 2, Staff High Boost, Goddess Kiss, which are pretty good skills, but nothing to boost them.
Nothing that's going to be... Like, that's nothing that's going to be changing their kit.
Not at all.
Drastically.
Not at all.
So
it didn't make them relevant.
So, it doesn't help them make them relevant at all. Now... Lanceveil's wasn't a bad for his kit, but he's still just not very good. Like, I think he got Armor High Boost and Human Shield.
Yep.
And then
he got Awaken, Thunder Attack Raise, and Defense
Thunder Attack Raise. Yeah. So, like, I mean, he got some stuff, which is, good. You know, very good for his kit, but it doesn't help him drastically, which is what I'm worried about when people, like, to Aetus, that was a drastic improvement.
That's wild.
But when I see these buffs as to what they're talking about, like coming up for these older units, I hope it's not that way because it really isn't drastic. It doesn't make us want to use them anymore. Or at least myself. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but it doesn't make me want to use them anymore. And they could have done. The problem with these older units is that even if they do add a huge damage cap raise and like a huge increase to their offensive firepower or their support capabilities or their magic capabilities, you know, stuff like that. what
need
they're
to do
lacking
stone
and
style buffs as opposed to Lance and Eliza buffs.
here's the thing: the stone style units already had a very good template, right?
Yeah.
So the units themselves had good hit counts, good stat buffs already, like and a big part of the power creep and a big part of the units' capabilities that are current has a lot to do with the hit counts. When you see a regular Shin have a hit count of 1 on his S1,
One,
they
literally
can't,
one.
They can't change that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not going to change that. That's from what I've heard.
Right.
So, like, even if Shin gets a buff, his S1 is still relatively useless. Now,
What if they give it an insane mod and just remove the damage cap entirely?
that's what I'm getting to. Because,
that's what they would have to do.
that's the only fix to his S1. If they're not going to change the hit count, is just like have a removal of the damage cap, or like put the damage cap up to like 1 million, like Lagrimos. Like something crazy like that could make it viable.
Yeah.
But when you look at Graven, when you look at Gorm or the old Goroth or Blood Rose, what's lacking? And even if they had a plus 10,000 hit count, their multipliers are bad, as well as their hit count is terrible. So, well, whatever they're going to put into their skill tree, and however drastic it is, I don't see it still working because it's just they're not changing their kit or their skills per se.
You think fundamentally they're so bad that in some cases they're unsavable.
Right. Yes.
That makes
Agree.
sense. Does make sense, sadly.
Which is a little Debbie Downer on the subject, but like I'm excited to see like how they do this, because if they can make these units worth using still, which I don't think they will be, but if they can make them drastically improved and worth using, I mean, I would love to have open up the floor to using these units in incredibly hard content and not hating my life. Like, yeah, absolutely. I would love to use Graven, Dine, and Goroth in the Mother battle and have it succeed. Like, yeah, I'm into that.
Come on, you can go back and use Gen 1 units in like Jalabanga. It's fine.
Yeah, Jalabanga.
There's a place for that.
Yeah, I agree. But
I think it was Demos that took Gen 1 units into Tower and beat it.
that was Enma.
Enma, that's who it was. That's who it was.
Oh, no, don't give Panda any credit. That's not.
Enma, yes. Enma is very impressive with certain things he does.
Yeah,
Enma's a monster.
So, Enma, I will say, because he also knows a lot about the game, taking nothing away from that, he likes to build older units, mostly because he's free to play and doesn't get a lot of the new ones and doesn't pull for them. So he's just like, all right, I'm going to go build out Sevilla. I'm going to go build out like monster units.
Yes.
Because he just, then that's totally interesting. He has a totally different aspect of this game. And if anybody's free to play out there that doesn't like know any direction or like feels bogged down by all of the banners and not getting stuff, and I mean, Enma's a good one to look towards for advice.
He's cool, dude.
So, and you know, and Deimos, I'm sure he's probably gonna add into the fact that Enma has Beyland's paid weapon. So I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. It's the only thing he's ever bought in the game, and at the time it was absolutely worth it because Beyland's Lafine is probably still the most dynamic and unit changing paid weapon there ever was.
That's wild.
Like the fact that it had on every single critical hit, on every single critical hit, it was 20% chance to restore 1 SCT, which turns him into an SCT god. And if you don't have this, he's just like, an okay neutral physical DPS. But when he has it, he was something else. And I mean, he doesn't have the multipliers of damage nowadays, damage cap to be a relevant physical DPS. But for an SCT battery on himself, it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he can solo Pablo. Like it takes a lot.
Yeah,
Like it's not an
it
easy
takes a long
feat,
time.
but he's one of
Right.
the first units to be able to like boss solo.
Yeah.
And that's really impressive. And he's got a super cool kit. Balin's still one of my favorite
I was
units.
going to
Yeah, mine
ask.
too.
Someone did
Mine too.
just ask me. Actually, I have the DM. Let me check it. But someone did ask me. They said, "Hey, um, I see that like no one talks about Beyland ever since Baran came out." And I said, "Well, yes. I mean, it's kind of natural as new shiny things come out. We tend to stop playing with the older stuff." But he wanted to know like the actual comparison between the two. In a DPS sense, I don't think there is much. Baron's just got way too much
Right.
cap on top of him.
Right.
But they're both neutral DPS. You've got Balin's team cap raise. What
So
would you guys say is a true comparison between the two?
so a good summary as for like the Beyland in the current meta, right? So Beyland, yes, neutral. So usable in pretty much every fight unless it's resisting neutral. Um,
Which is like two fights ever.
his unit design and his skills are awesome. The issue with him is that, which a lot of the older units is, his multipliers just aren't there. His innate damage cap isn't there. But what is there, and what still is the best part of his kit, is his charisma.
Yeah.
Like he still has a place. Him and Lagrabus still have a place in the current game strictly because of their enabling charismas.
Mm-hmm.
He is the only unit in the game with a charisma that gives a plus 2,000 physical damage cap to the entire party. And so, yes, he's useful. But when comparing to Baran, in the sense of DPS, it's not even close.
Night and day.
The neutral damage that Baran and the self-sustain that he gives far outweighs even Beyland with his paid weapon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not even close.
Oh yeah.
Baran with Ruination, Baran being able to span Ruination,
Right.
and if you throw Goddess Kiss on him, it's just a ridiculous combo.
Nasty.
So if you compare Beyland and Baran as a DPS wise, it's night and day. Like there's no comparison that you could do to make Beyland seem as good as Baran in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
What Beyland does do better than Baran is being an enabler because of his charisma.
Mm-hmm.
If you're stacking a single DPS and you're trying to choose and trying to trying to showcase a unit with an incredibly high damage cap, with a just showcasing that unit, right? You're gonna add Beyland. You're not gonna add Baran because Baran brings nothing to the team itself.
Right.
Doesn't enable anyone else, but Beyland does with his charisma. So that's my take on it. I don't see Beyland as being anywhere near the meta in physical DPS, even if he is neutral. Yes, he's still usable if you have him. If you got him from like the running start login or whatever, the 7 days thing that you have when you first started. Sure, yeah, he's usable, but don't be the first one to build him. Or don't make him the first unit you're going to build. No.
Sure.
Because he still needs the same things a lot of units need. He needs dual wield to fully, get his damage up there.
Mm-hmm.
He needs a lot of help in the weapon boosts and the skill department. Like he runs with pretty much a full crit package already, but that doesn't save him. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I use him as a non-DPS, because he's just he's not crazy powerful as the current ones are.
He may not be the star of the show anymore, but he's always in the band, right? Like you've always got him in your highlight videos because he's one of those things that like he really does just enable other people. Like he helps you push just a little bit further once you're in that in-game situation where it's like, okay, well, I'm hitting cap even on my white hits. Like I can't add more hit count. We've got all the pursuits. We've got everything is turned on already. He is a unique source of 2,000 cap. And if for no other reason than that, like he will remain like semi-relevant for a long time.
Until we get a unit that outclasses that, which I think charisma's in essence, are not easily outclassed just because they want to, because only one is available at any given time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they gave him that specifically. And just like we saw a unit come out with another damage cap, Zekis, who affects the same things, kind of, but not to a lesser extent. So not even Zekis' charisma outclassed his,
Right.
which is very interesting in them going with charismas.
And Beyland did release before Roland, so technically we're not off the mark in today's podcast topic.
Yes. He was released a month and a half or so before him. Yeah, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it's a lot easier to talk about. It's a lot easier to go on about units like Beyland and probably more recent ones that, we could see what they need and what's in the game to know what skills could make them shine versus the old units, like you said, that might be just unsavable.
If they kicked up Beyland's mods and his cap, he would become extremely relevant again.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely.
Especially with Lafine. Lafineland, even now, is just such a strong, self-engine. And that's one aspect in which he and Baran compare pretty directly, is that they're both, SCT engines. Baran's comes with the rider of 25% extra damage for health. Beyland's comes with the rider of you have to spend a crap ton of money. So in that aspect, again, Baran out the box is going to compete very directly, if not just, outrun Beyland. Once again, that's why people are kind of not so hot on Beyland anymore. But he definitely still has a spot.
Exactly. I think that's awesome.
And they run really well together. They're super fun together.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, because for sure.
Who doesn't want their chainsaw to do 2,000 extra damage on every hit?
Yeah.
Because he has great mods.
Oh, man. I'm using them now, and goodness gracious. I saw you gave him that nice little 9.8 on the tier list.
Oh, he deserves it.
Yeah.
He's his damage multipliers and the fact that he's neutral and the fact that he's his own SCT battery, and he has a very, very high chance to not flinch during spells and skills against him. That's crazy. He could honestly be higher if we really felt like it, because he's probably the single most usable unit in every single battle in this game in PvE because of that.
Pretty much.
Can you solo the whole game? I'm trying to think.
Seriously, probably. Not necessarily solo, right? But
No.
As your solo DPS the entire game, probably.
Him with the support, you can solo nearly everything. There are some fights that are physical immune that you couldn't do.
Right.
But one of those is in an event that doesn't exist right now, so that's not really something you have to worry about.
Mm-hmm. But he does have that Death God built into him. Not Death God itself.
But that's only at 30% health, right? They have to be low health for that to activate. So if you're doing 1 damage, you need regular Death God, and then that's not going to work on boss stages. But his ult is neutral, so it's fine. He does huge AOE neutral damage. But yeah, Baran with the support, you could probably kill 99% of the content.
Shout out to Jawline.
Yeah, which is hilarious, because I was just going to mention that Jawline made is re-rolled, right?
Yes.
It's make a set ult account, right? And he's just literally just running through everything with solely Baran.
Yes, I love it. He's 6 days in.
Yeah, just steamrolling everything.
Yep.
He hit me up the other day. He's like, "I've got so many crystals, and it feels so weird."
He posted a screenshot in my.
It really is for a new player to get Baran. If you re-roll for a Sandworm and Baran, you're set for
GG.
the foreseeable future.
Beginner's guide is useless.
But it's funny though, because he is one of the, if not the highest in recent memory, reroll targets we've had. Even I would say even higher than, especially higher than Kyle. Even just one of the highest reroll targets we've ever had. And unfortunately, there's not much else going on, because if he was released during 2nd anniversary, that would just been the absolute tits. he would have been nuts. But yeah, so it's pretty. He's a nutty character, and we can go on and on about him. But
I know
the fact that he is probably the single most important physical DPS for game progression. It's pretty funny.
That is very random, too.
Very random, but being neutral and being in the current power creep. And what's funny about power creep is who was I talking? I forget who I was talking to the other day about the status of the power creep in this game. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we ended. Let's go back here. The current power creep in the game
Shit is dead.
is more like a side creep, right? So the absolute power of the physical DPS nowadays, and when I talk power creep, I want to talk like physical DPS or like DPS wise, because supports don't really get power creep very easily. The power creep in this game in the last 6 months has been very slow. The units, if you've gotten a unit in the past a strong DPS unit in the past 6 months, like let's say DB Ray, Shift Lilibet, Nero, Dante, Merity even, Shift Medine, Baran, DeGrogue, like any of these units are going to be incredible units to have as your solo DPS. Like you could go past or beat pretty much every con in the game right now with DB Ray. Shift Lilibet. Shift Lilibet is still probably the top DPS in the game. And I mean DPS, a fully built out Shift Lilibet with the correct Slayers and cap raises and a team support, whatever. She still has the highest DPS. And then by DPS, I mean literally damage per second.
Continued. Sustainable forever.
Like, she is easily one of the top DPS units in the game for PvE content. So, and she's been here since the beginning of January or beginning mid-January.
Yes.
Like 5 months. And no one's outpaced her in DPS. No one. And I mean seriously no one. She is the top DPS in this game. So
That's crazy.
Baran has some insane sustain. But
yes.
Even still, she's just so far ahead. Omni Killer, real good as it turns out. Go figure.
As it turns out, yeah. And innate special boost
weird.
with just having to equip one Slayer, she's
and
nuts.
Then also being able to exploit elemental weakness, so good. Weird again. Who would have thought? Strange. Fast Giga Week, or not Fast Giga Week, but Giga Week built in. Weird. It's so good.
Giga Hydrain built in, Jesus.
Giga Hydrain, yeah.
Very fun.
She is, but what's nice about this now is that people complain about, I gotta pull this new banner, all these new units, I don't have any crystals. It's okay.
No, you don't.
All
and
of
they're
these
permanent units.
Exactly. All of these units, especially Shift Medine and Merity, are phenomenal units. You don't need to pull on these new banners if you have a strong DPS in the last 6 months. Even Alice, which is what I forgot. Alice, super relevant. Super relevant.
I think
she lacks cap raise, right? But incredible.
I still think she is. I mean, now we have Baran, so I'd have to rethink. But up until Baran, she was the best, or maybe still is just the best starter character.
Yeah, I would say Baran's probably the best at this point.
Right.
But Alice is up there. Nero was up there.
Nero is nasty.
Here's the thing: even Logia is up there
so much
because of how complete their kits are, and because of how new user friendly they are. In which case, you just have to build them up with, materials. But with how user friendly they are, man, they're so good to use in game progression.
Yeah. To bring it full circle, like you said, it's just very hard to imagine how they're going to buff these old units. If they buff these Gen 1 units, how they can bring them to even, because that was what Rithik, aka the Forest, that was his comment on my video of the newsletter, was he's the most excited for Arena. Why he's not extremely excited for the unit buffs is because he can't see, even if they give these these units these buffs. There is zero reason other than personal liking to them that you would want to run them other than these new units.
Right. I totally agree.
Right.
Which is why I brought up the point about them not changing hit counts and stuff like that, because that is not.
That's almost more important.
That's a not changing hit counts, and I don't know if they're going to mess with the multipliers of their skills yet, but not messing with hit counts, not messing with the multipliers. That's a huge part of why they don't work. Even if they give them damage cap, even if they give them crazy passives and uniques, like.
As far as buffing them for arena goes, though, a lot of it's going to come down to how these new formations and things work.
That is
because apparently we're getting like an actual arena rework again coming soon, TM/partly in 10 days or whatever when the season rotates. I'm interested to see how they do that. Like some of the things that they acknowledged that they want to change about, the battles dragging out and time stop healing magic being spammed makes things take, 15 minutes instead of 90 seconds.
Yep.
And Barleen was talking about that a little bit last night in chat.
Was he?
It got brought up. I mean, not like directly, but it certainly was something that was being talked about while he was around. I want to know how people are cheating in the arena. Certain players win matches with unfair play.
Yeah,
I want to know what that means. Who's cheating in the arena?
I also want to know.
I want to know who's doing this.
I'm very curious what the actual scenario is.
But I mean, they definitely acknowledge. Just quickly peeking back at the newsletter, they definitely acknowledge a lot of things about arena that makes it a lot of like not fun right now.
Right.
Because arena is such a drag to do right now. Which, by the way, I did test Baran in arena with kind of a
he's awesome.
put together build. He's great. He has tons and tons of sustain. He's tanky enough that he can stand there and get hit and not die. The only problem with him is that his damage is applied kind of over a period of time instead of instantly. So enemies have a lot of chance to heal. But if they take away time stop, it's going to be a lot better. So
a lot better
keep
for everybody.
Keep an eye out for that. Yeah, for everybody for sure, but specifically for him because of the way that his damage applies. Also, shout out to Jawline for doing some testing. His S2 does not proc sky high at all. Unless you previously have lifted them into the air and hit them with it.
Right.
It doesn't apply sky high. It is lame, and I expected so much different of it. Because it moves them so hard, like forward and backward, I expected they were getting lifted, but no, apparently they are sliding along whatever axis they are standing on when you hit them.
Right.
So you gotta lift them first.
What about his S3?
Which I mean,
so
I'm pretty sure his S3 does. His S1 and S3 both do, but his S2 does not.
I've seen some replays of some Barans, and it's their S3 that's going to have that big damage. Like,
oh yeah, for sure, and gather.
Definitely.
It pulls everybody in.
That I saw a couple of replays where people were just nuking an entire defense with.
Wow.
For sure. And I mean, that's super gold. So, like, or super silver, whatever it meant now. Yeah, he does do some pretty good damage, but that's on his S3. His S2, I mean, as long as people are flinchable, sure, throw it out there. Get them interrupted, but you're right. The Mth area, the Ruto heals are just going to be constant.
He doesn't have two options for an instant kill like Nero does, unfortunately, because Nero can just like pop people.
Oh my gosh!
You can walk up and S2 somebody and just dead.
That
you can S3 and kill an entire team.
Yep.
I was really hoping he was going to give Nero a run for it. And as a solo, like, hard DPS carry, unfortunately, he doesn't.
That sucks.
Nobody does yet. But there is definitely room for him. I'm hoping that the new formations are going to bring, a little bit more variety, because we have tons of really cool units right now. Like Tweacz was saying, like, in the past 6 months, we've gotten a ton of amazing units that I'd love to be able to use. But if you're not using Mtheria, Ruto, Kyle, and insert X DPS and or Mage here, you're not living that meta life right now. Yeah, again, thanks. You're not living that meta life to the fullest. And I've seen like offenses definitely a little bit different. There are people who run that plus, just physical DPS or whatever, or like 2 physical DPS and stuff. But it's so samey right now. Like I can shuffle through defenses and everybody from silver up to gold. It's just like, okay, it's
Sucks.
the triplets and their odd stepchild brother, whatever. And that's every team. That's so boring. That's so boring.
I'm salty because, well, I don't have Ruto at ADSC, but I can't seem to make a build that makes him as good as everyone else's. So I don't know. I feel dumb.
Do you have the new arc?
I did just get the new arc. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So one thing that I just switched. Are you talking about on defense or on offense?
Defense specifically.
So one thing I just did is I switched him to being like heal magic intensive and gave him revive, which is super annoying.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, so that plus like guard and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was thinking
the new arc is good. The one that came, Mindscape, is really good for him too. Because you might get to a point where he's got his physical immunity procced and everybody else dies,
Right.
and then he snaps and brings all 3 of them back, and that's again super annoying.
Yeah. Toxic.
Yeah, I hate the revive meta so much. I hate that it's like Grand Cross and revive. Like if they happen to get a kill, revive that kill before the timer runs out. Have 2 or 3 options for reviving. Have 2 or 3 options for magic interrupting. Congratulations, you have a defense that's going to run you down to 90 seconds every single time, and everybody's going to hate you.
Yeah.
They're going to beat you sometimes, but it's going to take them 90 seconds, and it's going to be super annoying, and people are going to start avoiding you.
Calphinite asked, was their solution to those issues in Arena just adding formations? I know they haven't. I think that was the only solution that they expressed in the letter.
I think they're expressing their kind of like their start, just letting us know that they're thinking about changing Arena, right? Like, and that's going to be very, very nice for the next iteration, because I hope, like Kryp says, I hope we can use different units. Like I don't love the stall meta, and we only feed into it because it is the meta. Like we don't want to be just like eating our points whenever we've worked hard for them. Like attacking wise.
I mean, it's not even about that. Like I care very little about points anymore. It's just fun.
It's not fun
like
at all.
it's not a fun experience. Like there's nothing exciting about how Arena works right now.
There's zero variety.
None. There's none variety. And if you do find it, it's like, oh yeah, cool, I get to do that one time. So it's definitely at a point where they acknowledge there's a problem, which is good, because that's the first step, is them saying, hey, something's clearly wrong here.
Oh goodness.
And who knows? Maybe this time they'll get it right. They've tried and they've tried and they've tried again. And I appreciate that they keep reworking Arena, but I don't think it ever got better than Quick Trigger Roulette Zouglas. that was my favorite Arena meta. And it's so long gone. Just memories these days. Wish we knew they were the good days as we were living through them, as they say.
Yep.
Cool.
I agree.
Well, Demos just dropped a bomb in the podcast chat.
Yeah, that's been around for a while. Who knows if they'll actually use that stuff? But if you don't know what's going on there, but all those formations are like progressively upgraded formations from the originals. So
yeah, they mentioned formations that make you effective towards a type, like a Slayer formation.
Those 2 as well. Those will be interesting to see what they come up with. But I mean, even and they like harped on formations being like, oh, this will be like meta changing. Well,
You don't see it.
Let's be honest. What gets better than +3 ailment to everything? Like, come on, let's be honest.
All right. That definitely changed the meta when they added that. I still see a lot of people running Magician though, which I mean, I guess I respect.
On defense, I guess. If I see anyone running Magician, I just bring my V.
Yeah.
Because I know they don't have +3 to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I run Magician on offense, and I just skip every V that I see. Pretty much.
That's also fair. Yeah.
Or Rogue. Yeah.
I just if I'm targeting V, I'm just bringing Asymptheria, obviously, and Unchained Beast. Just lean into it. It's fine.
Right. That's hilarious.
But yeah, these older units should be getting a nice little buff, and I'm excited to see it. Like I said, my favorite units to get a buff, now that I bring the tier list back up, would be Lena, Gorm.
Yeah.
Val especially. I would really like to see a really good archer in this game.
Val would be pretty dope.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Change Val's auto attack, give her better hit count. She's got innate, what is it? This is power? Or whatever the thing where the higher your skill stock is, the more damage you do. She has, like, proto a bunch of really cool abilities that we saw later on.
Mm-hmm.
And early on, she was super, super great for clearing tower if you didn't have DXR built with a stun. But anyway.
Yeah,
something I thought was interesting. Oh, go ahead, Tweacz, you were saying?
No, I'm saying I used her in tower, and she was also my first 100 SE unit, so
nice.
She's
nice.
She's got a special place, in
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played the Zouglas event right now and gone through that story. Zouglas I didn't think was a quote-unquote old character in the lore, but he's responsible for, like, all the deaths of some of these old units.
Yeah, he killed like everybody.
Like,
killed a lot of people.
He's literally the Darth Vader of Last Cloudia in my head.
He's a little bit Dread Pirate Roberts too, though, right? Because he's not. It's from Princess Bride. He's a character who has been around for a very, very long time. And people can't really figure it out, but eventually in the movie you find out that it's essentially a title that gets passed down.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, I see what you're saying.
He's always Dread Pirate Roberts, but under the mask he's a series of people who are forgotten by history.
You're right.
Because it's not always been who it is now without trying to spoil anymore.
Good. Yes.
But yeah, so it's that kind of dynamic for him.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
But yeah, he's responsible for everybody who's dead. It's how did this character die? Well, there's a really good chance.
Right.
Zouglas murdered them.
I was like, oh damn, okay. It's like I now know these people. I've been introduced, and they're being taken out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was
every character that you can use in the Grave of Heroes. Exactly. Zouglas helped get them there.
Very cool. Very sad. Rest in peace.
Very sad.
So, guys. Cool. Closing thoughts. I mean, we just kind of did our closing thoughts, but
yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
That's about it.
On that note, thank you all for coming out. Thank you to my co-hosts, as always. We will see what they announce. We will discuss off screen. Leave your comments. I'll be leaving the chat room open if there's anything specific you want to see in the next podcast or want us to talk about. I'll be leaving that open until next Friday. And I think that's all we got for you guys. So, until next time, work hard, play harder. See you in the next podcast.